to Cane Roots Art Gallery, Callaloo Network, Culture TV, broadcasting on Tempo Network. We are presenting Art Over Bush Tea. I'm so happy to be here, as usual, with my co-host, Patrice Deshabert, and our very, very special guest today is a friend of mine. So that's why he's even more so special. A friend of mine and artist, Jamal Barber. Jamal and Patrice, welcome to today's show. And wow, what an opening. So I think, Jamal, your work is self-descriptive. So the audience really has had a chance to see a wonderful opening to your work. But to welcome everybody to this Bush Tea, I want to say that I'm starting my morning with a delicious cup of tea made from leaves of a tree here on St. Croix called soursop. And soursop is known throughout the Caribbean in terms of finding the tree as a fruit. But you steep the leaves into a pot or a boiling tea kettle. And then I added wild peppermint leaves, and I also added cinnamon bark. So I am greeting Patrice and Jamal with a very, very special blend of teas that I've made on St. Croix. So welcome. What are you guys drinking today?
Thank you, Sonia. That tea sounds so yummy. I have to try that tea recipe, but I have a good old tea bag today. It's chai tea. I have some chai tea. And I just flavored it with some almond milk and some raw turbinado sugar, but I love chai tea. So good morning to you guys. And hi, Jamal. Nice to see you again.
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, so I'm here. I got my handmade mug from my girl Courtney Stone. Check her out. And this is just some black tea, real Southern. Keep it simple.
Good, very good.
The mug is gorgeous, yes.
Oh, wow. Amazing mug. I love it. We are going to begin our show. It's going to be very exciting because we have a complete, it's going to feel like an exhibit, Jamal. We're going to have to really work on our workshop here in printmaking, but we're coming to you, but today's show is really going to feel like we are in Jamal's printmaking workshop. We're going to see a large body of his work, and I think it's going to be very exciting for all of you who are viewing today. Jamal, I wanted to start with this first question to you. And in terms of all the things that you're doing now, we know that you're at the end of completing your master's degree. Besides creating that body of work and then doing other things that you're creating, and then having to have time for your family, your wife, and your children. How do you make that all happen in the life of an artist? How do you keep that balance? And also to finding time for yourself, or is the time that you find for yourself always just the creative side of you? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I think for the biggest thing that helps me out is that my wife understands me as an artist. I'm not just a guy that does art, like I am an artist. And so they understand my moves. They know, Daddy likes to create, and that's what I do. So any free time I get, I'm in the studio making stuff. Even if it's not for a show, like I've been working on this MFA for, I don't know, a couple months now, but even if it's not this, I'll be in here anyway. Doing, whatever, making whatever at any time. And so they understand that. But so it's more incumbent on me to actually to turn that off and just make time and just be with them and just watch movies and ride bikes and, do all the family stuff. And, it's fun. So it's not that hard, but they help me do it. They help me make the artwork. And so, it's a team thing, really. You find a woman that can support you the way my wife supports me, and, it's nothing like it.
Yeah, there's nothing like collaborative work. And I think that's a general consensus when I do hear artists talk about how they have to produce work and finding that balance. And my co-host, in terms of finding our own balance, Patrice, you've had the on the ground experience of being with Jamal right there in Atlanta. So you can now pick up that part, because it was really exciting. I know what you shared with me, having to be in Jamal's studio uphand and seeing how he creates.
Yes, Sonia, Jamal has a lot of art. I found that so many pieces that he was working on simultaneously, and I didn't realize that art could be like that. I thought it was like one piece and then the next. But Jamal was working on so many pieces of art, and I actually brought my daughter, who is a new artist herself, for the inspiration of Jamal, and he gave me some good pictures. It was awesome. And Jamal, I know a lot of young artists start off with sketching and anything you can find, right? Paper and books, whatever. And I read in your bio that that's pretty much, how you started, scribbling all over the place, and you were inspired by an artist from there. Could you tell us about your inspiration and, how you decided to actually focus on a career in art?
Yeah. So I was always a really creative kid, and doing a lot of sketching and doodling and all kinds of stuff, just making stuff. And I thought and it wasn't until I found Romare Bearden artwork that I knew or could see a different level of it, right? Where you can think about, like, this can also be a profession, but you can also really express yourself, really express how you feel, really make commentary about the world around you. And so that's when I shifted my focus. I got a little bit more serious about it. And I started making more of the statements that I felt in my heart about what I was seeing, about the conditions, about African Americans in America, and what it means to be Black. And so that became my focus. And like his work really personified that. Even now, I think his work is incredible. He's one of the best artists ever, And so seeing him and having him and all his skill tell our stories was really impactful for me.
Well, that was Romare Bearden, in terms of someone who inspired you, clearly had a huge body of work through the years as he started and created and went on through the decades, I should say, and created so many different series, like the Odessa series, the Autumn Mecklenburg series. So there's a whole depth of work, and I'm sure that you certainly did pick someone that I admired myself, and I have one piece of Romare Bearden, actually it's called The Open Door, that you chose to inspire you, that you came across. Well, actually, sometimes, in life, it's things find us. Things will find us, and sometimes there's no coincidence. So the thing that needs to enter our life and to be most impactful happens, and you're just at that place and time.
Yeah, that's so true. Because even before that, I was looking at children's book illustrations, and Jerry Pinkley is a tremendous watercolor artist. He's done hundreds of kids' books. Even seeing his work, and just the fact of knowing that is a Black hand that is making these incredible images is super inspiring too. So it's not just the work. And Jeremy Pinkley, he illustrated the Mouse and Lion, like a lot of different things. It wasn't necessarily Black, but just knowing that the force behind it was a Black man really inspired me.
Yeah, I think also too, you said a very important point, that Jerry Pinckney, he had the availability to also, in terms to have the publishing companies publish books where the images might not necessarily look like me, but he created a vast body of work where the children or the stories were all different internationally. But like you said, he was a creative that looked like me and you, but it gave the publishing house the ability to take in, which was not the way in other decades before, to take in a illustrator of color.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And when I started teaching in school, the images were very short in terms of sharing images with young children in terms of what looked like them. I used to work in Bedford-Stuyvesant in New York, and it was limited in terms of what I had to find to teach young children in preschool. And I remember Ezra Jack Keats had a book called Peter's Chair and the Snowy Day. And that is a book that I read so often. Now, it might not have been the best depictions, but it was such a lovely thing to read about Peter. And Peter was consistent about his chair, and it was so relatable to the children that I worked with. And then after Ezra Jack Keats came Tom Feelings.
Tom Feelings, yeah.
Yes, yes, and then Tom Feelings, I started to read to them Jambo Means Hello. And just like yourself, and maybe you and your wife will collaborate and do a great book one day, Tom and his wife, Muriel Feelings, they also collaborated on a few books themselves. And Tom was quite, bless his soul, he was quite a illustrator of children's books.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I loved it. I love this book.
We're going to be seeing a lot of your work today, and that will be coming up. I think I wanted to ask you, when you are being a creative in your studio, is there a specific thing that motivates you, or is there something moving within you to create?
I think a lot of my work has, well, my printmaking work especially has a lot to do with society. It's like a call and response almost to the events that's going on. And so a lot of it is answering about the humanity of Black people in the face of white supremacy, right? A lot of it is this social commentary about how much we still love each other, love ourselves, despite of the messages that are going on. So I call it Black propaganda almost, where you're going to put Black propaganda out to tell me how ignorant I am or how incapable I am. I'm going to put out artwork that shows us being proud, that shows us standing up for ourselves, that shows us fighting against the system. And recently during the pandemic, I just changed a little bit because, you know, the world changed. And in a way, that message of fighting was about going out and fighting. But when you can't go out, what do you do now? Like, what do you have like here at your home that's making you happy? Like that brings you joy, that's bigger and more important than anything else, especially if you're just sitting around in a pandemic. So a lot of my work now is dealing with that, just dealing with eliminating the outside noise. And it's not about projecting, it's about going inward. So a lot of these pieces are very personal. A lot of these pieces are way more colorful because I was using Black as a cipher in a lot of my work, where I'm representing Blackness with the color Black. But now, yes.
We're going to go to a break. And then when we come back, we're going to show some of those images. And then since Patrice has had the impact of being there with you in Atlanta, Patrice is going to take the lead in terms of asking the questions that related to what she experienced with you there. So we'll be right back. This is Sonia Nahardeen at Cane Roots Art Gallery. And my co-host with me is Patrice Deschabert, and we have with us also in gallery, in studio, artist Jamal Barber. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.
used to watch BET, MTV, VH1, now I watch Tempo. Soca, Calypso, Reggae Dancehall. Don't stall, better get tuned in to the Tempo. Don't have cable, they got an app. Go to your app store, download that. Whether it's tourism, cuisine, or the social scenes, if it ain't Tempo, it's a rap. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. It's the latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. It's the latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo.
What's happening with this painting?
So this painting, it started off with just the abstract patterns, and then I kind of saw this kind of figure emerge out of it. This figure is like really reminiscent of my wife, how I feel about her. How I know she's just a strong, dynamic figure, like with all the different textures, all the different layers, everything I know about her. And so it's kind of a tribute to that, kind of that mothering spirit that she has. She kind of has a kind of half-pregnant belly, you know, it's really kind of warrior pose type of thing. And this really dynamic circle hair. She's kind of emerging in the background, so she's the centerpiece of it. So even though it started as an abstract piece before she came into it, she is really bringing it all together. Like all the patterns are interacting with her, around her, based on her movement. She's controlling the universe. And kind of that's how I see it. You know, sending the universe. And so now I'm just going through and trying to separate, give her her own space, like make her realize and solid, separate from the background. And so just tightening up some of the areas to bring her out. I think I really like this kind of texture that she has inside of it. All the different things that she does.
Welcome back, Jude. I'm your co-host, Patrice Deshabert. Your live and the mom,
Hey.
yes, which is part of a pieces that you're working on for your dissertation right now. You are doing an advanced degree. Tell us why you decided to go back to school. Tell us about the pieces you're working on and what it all means and what it's going to eventually be as a beautiful body of art as one collection.
I think one reason I went back to school because my wife kept going back to school, and it put a lot of pressure on me. She went and got her PhD in chemistry, and so I really thought it's just a way for people. Some people had came to me about, pursuing degrees at different universities. So that's when I started looking into it. It's been a different kind of experience. I never expected myself to go back to school. I just like doing art. And so, but I've learned a lot from that process. And it led to the creation of this body of work. So this body of work is more about feeling and joy and less about struggle, and all that kind of stuff. It was inspired by just being here in the pandemic and seeing what was necessary, like what needed to be said in this time. And I don't think it was really as much about going out and fighting, for Black rights or anything like that. It was about, being happy where you are, like reimagining your life in a different way. So if you start to question, Maybe the color black is not the only color that needs to represent blackness. And kind of started from there and just expanding on the ideas that I always talk about in my artwork.
Yes, thank you so much. And it was a lot. I noticed in your art, could you tell us about what it is, a belief that you feel is a thing that you use to transcend and connect a lot of your head?
Yeah, I think the color is really important. And even it starts off now, the new work starts off as abstract pieces. Because mostly I want to separate myself from reality almost. Like I'm almost reimagining a different world where blackness is just free to exist in whatever form it takes. Free to be expressive, free to move on and off the canvas, like and take its own shape. And so that thread follows through all of the pieces. It's like a connection to nature follows through all the pieces. A sense of being one with the universe. In a book, Christ Our Black Mother Speaks by Dr. Tofina Cleveland, he talks about why Black Madonna figures were so great. It's because when people were worshiping God and thought about God, they wanted a God that looked like that, so they would know the universe wasn't against them. And that kind of sense is in a lot of the work too.
Gorgeous. Sonia, I know you had questions to Jamal with the pieces. Share some of that with us.
Jamal, when I first met you, we chatted and you had this print. And I don't know how many people can see this print behind me. And it's called Bouquet. And I think at the time, this might have been the only print you had. I don't remember. There might have been other prints, but this is the piece of work that attracted me. What attracted me were, of course, the flowers that crowned her head, which I really love crowns. So the flowers made a crown, and it came down over to her shoulder, draping, and her hair was over to the other side, and then there were her lips. And then her skin color in the process of the printmaking became black. When I bought it and it was the bouquet, I thought I was the bouquet. That's how I saw it. It was all about me being the bouquet and I was the gift of the flowers. Mm-hmm. I didn't see it any other way. So that was my attraction and that's how I interpreted the piece. And it meant so much to me and it's been with me. It has graced my home. It has traveled from New York to St. Croix, and it's in a very special place with other pieces of art that I've collected. So I just wanted to say thank you for this very special piece. And I know you haven't created anymore, so I actually feel more honored because it was a piece that you created, was 6 out of 16.
Yeah.
And I am the owner of number 6 of that print collection. I have another piece of work that's not here, but it's called A Hard Dollar, which is with a man with a hat. And it has very intricate carving work. And I think we had talked before about if I was interested in printmaking, because I'm attracted to printmaking, mm-hmm. How would it be for an individual like myself, a novice, only liking what I see in printmaking? How would I begin to even endeavor or to take a class, or let's say in my own figuring it out, or what would be the tools or for me to feel comfortable and not have any obstacles to begin to enjoy printmaking?
I think that's a great thing about printmaking is that it is so easy to do. And I teach a lot of classes and workshops to first-time printmakers. And it's the process of it is what attracted me to it. Just the different steps necessary, and it always keeps you moving forward. So if you were to do it, you would only need, it's only a couple of ingredients. It's wood, ink, and paper. That's all you need to be making these prints. And just endeavoring, a lot of people, and they do this in kindergarten a lot, is it's almost like making a stamp, right? Where you just people carve potatoes, and like dip it in the paint and like make little things. It's the exact same idea. And you just take that and expand it. And you start wherever you are, like with whatever you have at the house, just a couple of scraps of wood or something like that. Just try to make a mark on it with a different carving tools or any kind of knife. Or you can get a simple set of carving tools from hardwood and paper, and that's really all you need. And I think that's a great thing about art, that everybody has the same access to resources for the most part. If you can get a piece of paper, you get a piece of wood, you can get some ink, like you can be a printmaker too.
Well, JB, that's my little code name for you. We're going to have you come down to St. Croix and spend a month, bring the family.
Yeah, we love
do
it.
an artist in residence, printmaking workshop, because we've got to spread the love and the joy for printmaking.
Oh yeah, and I love printmaking. So I'm always teaching classes here at Atlanta Printmaker Studio, or I teach at Georgia State now as part of my master's program. So I'm always like looking to spread the love of printmaking. And, get more printmakers. We can hang out. We can all carve and make prints and exchange, and it's just a fun time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think what we can go ahead, Patrice.
Yeah, I was going to ask on that note, Jamal, no matter what type of art the young artist is doing, what sort of advice do you have for new people getting into art, whether it's on canvas, oils, watercolor, whatever they decide to do? What sort of advice do you have for aspiring artists?
I think the biggest thing about artists is that you have to do it, right? And not think about doing it, not want to do it, but just grab a cheap old sketchbook, even if you just get some typing paper and clip it together. As a little kid, I did that too. And just do it, like express yourself. And the more you express yourself, the more you'll develop, and not only what you want to say, but how you want to say it, right? And it just comes from work and commitment and practice, and you're gonna have to sacrifice a little bit, right? Like I don't go to as many movies. Even when stuff was open, I didn't go out and make movies. Like if I had time, I was in the studio, because that was my passion, that was my joy, that was my center for me as an individual. And so I committed to that. And you have to do the same thing. If you want to do it, if you feel like it's something you can express in your voice that's different, that's what you do. Like, and don't let anything get in your way. But it all starts with doing. It all starts with doing at the base level, just a sketchbook, just drawing in your sketchbook, expressing yourself. And believe me, once you do it once, you get addicted to it. Like it's nothing like it. Like when you really get it off your chest, like when you get that release that comes from, I did that. Like I said that. It was a blank piece of paper. It was nothing, and I created it. Like that is addictive, And so if you just follow that feeling, you'll get where you're going. Your path is not going to be the same as everybody else's. Like, don't make that mistake of thinking that, you see a lot of 30 for 30 lists out there, the best artists under 30, like all this kind of stuff. I'm 40 years old. Like, I'm just hitting my stride. I feel like it. And so, it is what it is. Like, and so in your own way, you'll make your way, but you have to follow it and be committed to it.
Well, Jamal, we're going to take a break. And you're absolutely right. You are at your best stride at 40. And we're going to take a break again, and we'll be right back.
Wow. Freedom right now means the ability to do what we actually set out to do without, any prohibitions, without any, man-made hurdles.
By the end of the Almighty, we forward in this generation.
And so uniting our region, letting us see each other and understanding that together we are actually much stronger. Continuing to spread that unification. All these various islands we haven't been yet that just dying to feel the tempo. We're gonna go give it to them.
Redemption song. Redemption song.
I always remember Frederick being, just from a very early age, very smart. When he got older, he became very popular. He was Mr. DJ, Mr. Entertainer, always dancing, always dancing.
I'm sitting here at MTV Networks, and I'm thinking to myself, well, Caribbean people have contributed so much to the world and to world pop culture. I started to think about all of that, and I was like, wow, these are all the things that make great television.
It's exciting, very exciting. I always figure he'd do something like this. I never know to what extent he would be, but he always had the potential to do something like this.
From that moment, I knew that Tempo was going to be something special, something new, something different, because there was this confident, easygoing, proud black brother. He got right into it, told me all about what he had in mind, all about what his visions and his dreams were. I was hooked, line and sinker.
For me, Tempo is really embody the Caribbean, not just the music and just the videos, but it's the life on different islands.
He was the main person that pushed me and supported me, and if it weren't for that push, I probably wouldn't have hosted up until now.
In the short time that I've been here, almost a year and a half that I've been here at Tempo, I have really seen how hard you work, and I can only imagine how much work you have put in over these past 15 years.
Because I believe that I've been ordained to do what I'm doing, and that is to put my fist up and say Caribbean is the most extraordinary place on earth.
And we're back. Jamal, we are going to start with a selection of your works. And Patrice, you were there to actually see them in person. So why don't we start from the top? They will be coming up. And Jamal, as they come up, if there is a name for that particular piece or a piece that comes up that had a specific effect from you while creating it, please share that with us.
Yes, this piece is called Carolina Woman. And this was right when I started painting and really got into the colors and everything. It was really about just the essence of a woman that was from where I'm from, like North Carolina. And as much as we always hold on to those African roots, I know I do in a lot of my work, and that kind of is full of a longing for connecting with the motherland. I also want to acknowledge the culture that we have now, the culture that we have here. So that North Carolina culture has a pot from Dave the Potter, who was a slave in South Carolina, but got to sign his name on the pots that he made. It's kind of the rooster and like the kind of allusion to the plants and rows of crops, that kind of thing. So, really expressing my love for us as a people, where we are, where we came from.
Thank you for that.
This piece is called Celestial Dance.
What's about this one?
The name of this piece is Celestial Dance, and it was just about uplifting like objects and giving them power. But it's kind of an African mask, kind of redesigned African mask. But again, a lot of color, like a lot of expression, and really delving into, Black doesn't have to be the only thing that represents us as a people. Like you can use a lot of different colors. Like we're lively, we're different, we're bold, we're beautiful people. So like, why not use that in my artwork?
Actually, it reminds me, that piece and the piece following, they both remind me of a sculpture that I have at home, and it was created in Mali. And actually, the carving of the hair, which almost, I don't know if it was meant for like cornrows, but it's carved in almost the exact way that you did this. So it feels very Malayan to me. Reminds me of a sculpture again, like I said, from Mali. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. And I bring a lot of different cultures into my work. This piece right here is from my Black Love series. So when I take a break from all the really intense Black struggle work, I always go back to me and my wife and how much we mean to each other, and kind of Black love, our couple being the foundation for life, for creation of life, of family, of community. And that's what these series of pieces were about.
And Jamal, you said that these are reminiscent of African figurines and statues.
Yeah, that's right. It was inspired by the primordial couple, which is by the Dogon tribe in Mali, I believe. And they carved these like figures, these man and woman figures that they use in wedding ceremonies. And so part of that, I think the next piece is kind of directed at the man they're sitting on a stool and the man has his arm around the woman as a way to show connection. And so in that series, I'm playing with the different ways that people embrace each other to show that connection that they have. And, every couple has a different thing that they do. Like when you go to a couple, say, hey, let me take a picture. They do their thing, like however they relate to each other. The hip to be a little closer, you know what I'm saying? Chest is poked out a little bit more, and just trying to capture that sense of love and personality that everybody has with their mate.
That's beautiful.
That's beautiful. I like the, in both pieces, the connection is very strong, very, very strong. And the second one, I like the overlay of between their heads, the juxtaposition of their heads, and the way he takes his arm and places it around her shoulder.
Yeah,
it is really beautiful. And then you seem to even create within the body. You create on the man's body. You create this beautiful pattern, and all through the pieces in itself, there are these intricate patterns that allow for the compositions to take place that differentiate the different parts of the bodies.
Yeah. In my work, especially in printmaking, it's very easy to jump from a pattern work to a rendered figure. And so I use that as part of the characteristic of the medium. So I have a lot of patterns in my work. You see that kind of pop into the paintings too. Like I just took my printmaking sensibility with the patterns, the lines, the layering, and the shape, and just brought it with me into painting. So that's kind of when I talk about drawing in your sketchbooks and finding your style and who you are. That's who I am as an artist. That's the kind of how I see things, how I reinterpret the world.
I love this one so much.
Yes, she does. I do too.
For the blues, I mean, I love all of it, but this one is my favorite because I'm drawn to the blues and the leaf, and just like the face is sort of shaded, and then the necklaces, the jewelry that she's wearing, it feels like to me. Tell us about this one and what's the name of it?
Yeah, this one, oh man, the name just blanked in my mind. But this piece was part of the same series from the first two images. They start with these abstract patterns, so you can see all the blues and everything, the shapes behind it was a separate abstract composition, and then I kind of this figure emerged from it, from all the different layers that I put on top of it. But you see that same characteristic. You see all the different patterns. You see the strong line work of faces. And again, emphasizing that connection to nature, showing that, we are connected to the world, part of us. I really like this piece too. And it was one of those pieces that kind of just come to you. And every once in a while I do a piece that has a big concept behind it. But now this piece in particular, when I hit it, it was, I don't know, it just felt like this needed to be what I did that day. And that's what it felt like. And you got to follow those impulses too.
Well, Jamal, I know you can't think of the name right now because that happens to me. But
Yeah.
for right now, I'm going to call her Art Over Bush Tea, because she just symbolizes what we're doing right here. This is a very strong piece. So I'm going to just give her a temporary name. Thank you.
This piece was called History Part 1. So I thought of, from 1619 to 2019, the 400 years we've been in America as Black people. And I was going to tell that story in woodcuts. So this is the first version of it. So you see kind of the African figures and a kind of a ship being carried away and this person being right there in between, kind of the genesis of how you get to where you are. And so it would go through and show the whole history of who we are as a people all the way up to now. So this was kind of the first set of that. So if you notice the marks at the top, I took that from a Pablo Picasso piece, a still life we did. And he is known for when he made his abstract cubism work, it was inspired by African figures. So it was that, to me, also symbolized the taking of people and things from Africa and being remade. And so that was the genesis of where we are now. We went in a different direction and we got separate, and our history gets more elaborate. But this, to me, was kind of an opening salvo in that story.
Amazing. I love that piece. I'm so glad you did that for the commemoration of 400 years.
Yeah.
And when I met you that April in Atlanta, I was really moved by that. And I had a jeweler make a ankle bracelet for me with a, oh gosh, now see, you forgot the name of the piece and I'm forgetting what I had, shackle. So I had it made and I had him create his own idea of what a shackle would look like. So after meeting you again in Atlanta, I was moved to come back and have a piece of jewelry made for the commemoration of the 400 years that, we have been here in the United States. And then, I think about, being all through the diaspora.
Yeah. I think about it a lot too. This piece right here is called I Could. It's from my Identity series. And this was another piece where I was talking about what it feels like, right, to experience white supremacy, right, to be harassed by the police, to have your identity taken away from you, not be seen as, fully who you are. When you do a portrait, it's super important to have the eyes read properly before it can look like you. And kind of in this series, I made a bunch of pieces about, women and men standing in pride, with their heads up, with their full African features, their melanated skin. But I took their eyes away from them. Like I took that last piece of your identity from you. And kind of that's what happens when I got pulled over by the police, with a gun in my head and, all that kind of stuff. It was dehumanizing because in that moment, I wasn't a college graduate. I wasn't a taxpayer, homeowner, father, husband, all the things that I am. I was just another Black suspect. And it's violent, right? And it's jarring. And it's something that we have to contend with. Like this is how it feels to be Black. And so that's what the Identity series was about.
Wow. That is so touching. This piece really is super interesting. What you mentioned about the eyes, it's the windows to our soul. And when it's not there, you feel like there's no soul. Almost.
Exactly. Like you don't get to have it. This piece is called Man with Pat. So this was one of the first paintings that I did getting back into painting, right as the pandemic hit. And you know, you can see the genesis, you can see all the patterns, you know, you can see all the different colors starting to emerge. I hadn't quite figured out my style, how I wanted to do it yet, but you know, you can see the attempt of it. You know, you can see all the different mark making, and you know, still the plants. You know what I'm saying? Still the figure. I really like this piece. This was the beginning of my organic shapes too for the canvas. They weren't all square anymore. Like they were torn off or cut off in different shapes and directions, so that I wanted the energy not to feel confined to just a rectangle.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I remember I had told you that when I first saw this, I thought it was a bit of a self-portrait because I thought it was the tray that the artist uses to mix their paints on.
Oh yeah, palette. Yeah.
Yeah, with the palette. And I said, then I looked a little closer and I said, oh, that's a hat. See, then you know, there goes how we purchase art or how we love art. We love it for what we see, and there's no one way. I wish I could quote you one time. You had a quotation, and I'm going to find it and put it up on the website, about how we see art through our own eyes, how we identify with things. And you know, before, the other piece of work showed no eyes, but when we are able to see things through our own eyes, it's really a reflection of our own experiences. And sometimes that's how we go after, or we go after something that we would like to have, and we take it from the artist. We go, oh, I really want this. I really get this expression for me.
Yeah, and that's what I love about artwork too, is that I leave it open for your interpretation to be right? Just because I made it a certain way doesn't mean that's what it means, right? Like everybody, like you said, brings their own experience into the work. So that little gap between what I said and what you hear is super important. And to me, I think it's interesting to hear those stories.
Yes, indeed.
This piece was called The Abolitionist. And so I did a whole series kind of describing people. And in this one, I wanted to say that an abolitionist in any community, his motto is "Give me liberty." From the Patrick Henry quote, "Give me liberty or give me death," or "Give me death. There is no other. There is no more. Like it's only liberty, and you do whatever you have to do to get it." And so you need those kind of people as a driving force in your community sometimes.
Yeah, this reminds me of like a newspaper headline almost, like the red, the black and white. It just kind of reminds me of like the headline and the story of the day. And it's super powerful, very, very powerful. What did you choose to put red in there?
Well, in the series, I wanted to show opposition, right? Is that everybody doesn't think the same. And so, you know, there's always like different mind states of how you can see things. So all throughout the series, there's this red guy that's kind of peeking around the corner. And not necessarily being a hater, but, you know, being the people that you have to talk to as well. And this is one of my favorite pieces I've ever done. This piece is called The Council. It was pretty large too. I think it was 4 feet by almost 4 feet square, I believe. I don't remember the exact dimension, but it was 4 feet wide. And this kind of tells the story of people too, where it's the story of Blackness, where it's not just my experience of Blackness that I draw on when I talk about being Black. It's also the experiences of everybody that I know, everybody that came before me, and how we all connect over time to make this thing called Blackness, right? So it's not just a singular experience. You know, the Black people in Chicago, in Georgia, in, you know, LA, in the Caribbean, like we're all having various experiences of Blackness, and it all adds to our understanding of the world. And so that's what this is about. So Blackness goes from people to piece, from man to man, overlapping, till it gets to the fully formed figure, which is me. and how I get to see things. And then the figure all the way on the right, just the line work, is a person in the future. And if you notice in the future, man, his eyes are my eyes. So he will have his understanding of the world from what I do and what I say and what the things that I create and give to him. And so that council is the council of ancestors in Blackness that is always with you, helping you tell your story.
Wow, I just love hearing how you describe that. It's just like so powerful because the experience is multidimensional, multifaceted. That's amazing.
Exactly. There's no one Blackness, and and it's open, and we have to know the experience of other people. You don't just show up in your neighborhood and think you're the only person there. Now, you're breaking some new ground that's never been conquered before. Like Black people have always been here. They've always been in every place, even when you don't see them. And they can tell you about a place better than just blindly going into it without knowing, right? And so we need to rest on that connection that we have. Like, it's very special.
And I love this modern storytelling, especially now that we're in Black History Month. You're seeing these pieces and you think about Black history and you think about just the ancestral type of pieces, but you have a beautiful way of blending that traditional, the Mali's figurines with the modern and contemporary way of doing art. It's so strong with the solid lines, but still very soft, especially with women. And you see the threading of leaves and flowers.
Yeah, thank you. And that's something that I do, and I it's instinctive almost. Like I don't really understand it in the moment that I'm doing it, but I just feel it. And so sometimes you just have to follow that feeling and trust that what you're feeling is valid. That's a hard thing for artists to do, especially when I'm here making work in the basement. Like Patrice, you came and saw the work. You were the first person to see these paintings in person ever. Like, I've been here with them for 6 months, but nobody has seen them. So part of it is just it incubates, and then I wait to the right opportunity to give it to the world.
Well, the most important thing is I keep remembering to tell young people, Jamal, is to tell your story, write your story down, and also tell the story of your mother and your father. Tell the story of your grandparents if they're still there, and your great-grandparents. Remember to get those stories, because only you can tell those stories. So you can be the recorder of your own truth. Because if you leave your truth in the hands of people to tell your story, it becomes watered down. It becomes somebody else's story. It's not yours. Right. So you're doing that. You are the storyteller of your experiences, and it's really wonderful to see it. It's from the time we've met in 2016 to now, to see your body of work. It has grown, and not that this is any less shallow, but this is absolutely important and relevant from the time that I purchased it to now what you are doing. So your work has just blossomed, and please continue to tell your story, continue to share your story with us. Anytime down the road that, we can host something else from you, we would certainly love to do it. We have enjoyed our time with you. I know I speak for Patrice. She has been glowing by having the opportunity to interact with you. And it's been very, very special. I cannot thank you enough, Jamal, and thank you for Patrice in the time of COVID, being able to distance socially and being able to bring Jamal into all of our homes and to the gallery. So for right now, a big heartfelt thank you. And Jamal, congratulations. I look forward to seeing the graduation ceremony and all the great things that are going to continue happening after you graduate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.